piece, then it's, again, it's kind of a departure, even though it's going back to more figurative work, which is something that I do have extensive experience with. It's in a style that's kind of different. It has kind of an illustrative quality, which is sort of new. I didn't want it to be too real because it's dealing with a subject that's still pretty tender for me. So, you know, of course 2020 was a crap year for most people, but I had the kind of additional challenge of having been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. If you may or may not know, but ovarian cancer is a major killer because it can go undetected for so long. And that was the case for me. I had had it in my body for a very long time, and we were extremely lucky to catch it. This piece, it's loosely based on the images they literally took during my laparoscopic surgery. And it's kind of a composite of both images of the inside of my body as well as some that were available online, just to kind of get a bigger picture. And then the clematis is a really important symbol to me personally. When I was a teenager, we had to relocate suddenly to kind of escape an abusive situation. And in the house that my mom got for us, then there were these beautiful clematis vines growing on the back porch, and they were in full bloom when we moved in. And so that's really the first place in my life that I remember really feeling safe. And so the clematis, it's like my favorite flower, and it's home to me.
So this piece was me driving down the road. I had committed to maybe sitting this Indigo show, or sorry, this color spectrum show out until as I drove down a road down in Pasco, I just had this vision of darkness and just the way that, you know, the sky at night isn't black. It has this really beautiful indigo color. So immediately my brain went to what I normally focus on, which is the mask concept of everyone wearing different masks and on where we are, who we're with, and over time never really revealing our true selves in front of people. We tend to build this facade, these new identities, depending on whether we speak to our grandma or a teacher or a parent or a child. And so this was the idea that everyone over time loses their true self. And here was an opportunity. If we were going to have a physical show, I wanted people to be able to embrace who they truly are in front of the public. So the idea was, you know, in this piece, someone's removing their mask in front of all others, and you can see that some people are really disappointed in the person removing the mask, and others that are a little bit more curious, and then one person that's even following. They want to do the same because now they realize that it's perfectly okay. And at the show, the idea was that if you were to announce who you truly were in public, you could actually go ahead and snip one of these. The intention would be that over the course of an art show, that at least 6 people would admit who they were behind closed doors, and the mask would come crashing down to the point where we shatter it. It's no longer a thing. And that's the idea behind the piece.
What I really appreciate is that, like, I love craftsmanship, and I love how an artist will spend so much time on a painting. It's like you're actually putting a lot of soul effort into it. And that's what a lot of people tend to overlook about artists, is that if you're willing to sacrifice so much time in solitude and just really kind of reap the benefit of like making this vision into reality so other people can perceive that, it's like you're projecting all the things that you've absorbed and just kind of squeeze it out like a sponge right onto the canvas or any kind of surface. No, this is a very interesting piece. This was basically one of the first pieces I've done. I took 2019 off just to learn about illustration, and when the shutdown happened, this is kind of my response to that. And what was interesting is, like, I kind of had this image played in my mind for a long time. It was like I had like a character that kind of roams around in the desert. And I remember like taking a hike during the whole COVID-19 shutdown, and I did this regularly because it's like I'm trying to stop cabin fever, trying to enjoy solitude a little bit more. But like I loved how the certain direction of like how the sagebrush was blowing. It was like dusk, it's sunset, and I love the natural beauty around here because it's like, it's, you know, they're all familiar with it. Might as well make art that's familiar to other people because that makes the best art in certain cases. And just kind of capture that moment and then just kind of put all the reference material and just kind of collage it together, and then make out the textures and the very interesting kind of like things that kind of just put it together. I don't know how to describe it. It's just, I'll take reference shots of like things I like stuff, surfaces like this. Texture is such a very human connecting kind of thing. It's a very interesting impression to the human experience that makes it feel so real, which is very nice.
This is my piece. It's named La Clausura de la Identidad Femme, which is the closure of the feminine identity. It's all about identity as what you identify as. We live in a world that is now more acceptable to be whatever you want, and I like really wanted to showcase that between the parallels between, you know, the feminine and the masculine. And I always like to show colors like as the colors that a boy is, boy like blue, and then a girl is always pink. So I always like to mix that. And most recently, like after high school, I really turned into like more of like a not so creative person, and I really wanted to just like bring that back up, especially with my art teacher, Mr. Saul Martinez, who has been such an amazing person. We still keep in touch, but he's always told me like, I see potential, I see that you have a vision, and you always stay true to yourself. He's definitely like brought up that creative juices going in my life, so I definitely like feel like I owe that to him in some way, you know?
Moved from Taiwan to Tri-City about more than 20 years ago. I used to work at my older sister. She owned Chinese restaurant, so we work for her for a long time. And I moved back to, I moved to Alaska for a couple years and moved back. So, yeah, I used to do a lot of color pencil sketch when I was younger, and always dreamed one day I can become a graphic artist, and always kind of hoping I can create my own art. And so until probably a few years ago, so computer screen become my canvas. So I found that I have ability by just using simple geometric shape to create my own image. So the result was fulfilling. I was just, art is just my escaping place. And usually the more my mind is more free, the better result would be. It's my childhood dream, but the artist's dream is kind of just forgotten until a few years ago. I entered my pieces, my artwork to local gallery, so I won one of the cash reward. So I was so excited. I just all over the moon. It's kind of maybe in some ways it's kind of brought my dream back.
Interested in the idea of sacred objects and sacred spaces and what causes an object to become particularly special to humans and what is kind of a regular object. We see this in like we don't think of like spaces as objects, but oftentimes they are. Things like cathedrals or mosques or even like ancient landmarks. They are just large objects that we exist inside of. And so I'm interested in kind of the transition from the exterior world into a space that is deemed sacred by humans, even though humans created it. I was raised very conservative, religious. The flavor of religion that I was part of had a lot of rituals, spaces, objects that were deemed sacred, and oftentimes they wouldn't feel that way to me, but I would have other personal things that felt particularly sacred to my own life or to my own art practice. Spaces, objects, things that I had made with my own hands felt more special than the things that were supposed to feel special to me. And I've since left organized religion in general, but I still find myself feeling that kind of vibration with sacred objects. And I'm very drawn to like ritual and what it means, like the difference between a habit and a ritual, and the transition between regular life and those sort of sacred spaces that we make for ourselves even privately.
I am not an artist when my hands weave through my hair, tying it down in braids and knots, remembering the path with inner sight through my blood of old. I am not an artist when my hands wipe your tears and my words soothe your fears while humming those lullabies of old. I am not an artist when I scrape and scrap to create food that heals the soul, brightens the mind, and brings us back to a time of our ancestors old. I am not an artist when my hips sway and my body flows, becoming one with the rhythm and beat, feeling it all the way down to the soles of my feet, drumming and stumping that old ancestor beat. I am not an artist when my body is oppressed, but my words and my voice feel free to dance to the highest heights, reaching that sacred place of old. I am not an artist when my hips spread wide to birth new life and my hands dig deep within the earth to shape its growth, hoping and praying to remember that piece of old. I am not an artist, I am art.
Titled this one Broken. So this is my personal accordion, my trusted steed for the last 12 years or so. Like, I've had it with me. It's been through, so much with me. A lot of gigs, a lot of memories were made with this. I mean, I was busking in Berkeley, California, but right before I had my brain bleed, and I thought I wasn't going to play again, and slowly but surely I started being able to play the accordion. And this was and still is my favorite accordion. It broke on me last year before the pandemic, and so right before the pandemic it broke, and that's when I got really bummed out, and I started remembering when I became disabled I thought of myself as broken, and it took me a while to realize that I wasn't broken, and my light was still going to shine, but in a different way. This last year has been just so eventful in many ways, whether good or bad, but at the end of the day, honestly, art kept a lot of people alive during this tragic time that we were just in. The whole world, be it binge watching Netflix or whatever, everything is art. Music, whether they want an audiobook or a book, art kept us sane during this last year. And honestly, I feel, not even just that, but look at the beautiful murals that came out of the Black Lives Matter movement last year. The art that came out of that, it was just gut-wrenching. It was beautiful, but at the same time, it was bittersweet because what inspired that beautiful art. Every day is a new day to discover something new, art-wise, that'll just keep me going. And I just know that art is beautiful for people with mental illnesses, and just create. It doesn't matter what medium it is, just do something, create. Whether you sketch, don't matter, bead, whatever, just create. It's a great feeling.